Good afternoon to you. Mark Sudduth, HurricaneTrack.com here with your off-season edition of the Hurricane Outlook and Discussion. Trying to get over this cold. I don't get sick very often, but this one's really hanging on. No fever, nothing terrible, just plaguing me. It's like keeping me down, and I don't like it. But enough complaining. Let's move on, shall we? This is the January 30th edition, 2017, of the off-season look at the tropics first, and then we will look at lower 48 weather, as I like to do during this off-season period. And so we will start today's tour with a look at the Southern Oscillation Index. It couldn't be more perfect for basically showing you that it's neutral. The daily contributor just slightly negative, and the 90-day and the 30 days are all real close to zero. So pretty much everything all evened out is statistically right around an SOI value of roughly zero. All right, and that means basically we are in neutral conditions. We're neither in a La Nina pattern to speak of. We're not in a El Nino pattern to speak of. And just a quick reminder, when these numbers are strongly positive and consistently so for weeks on end, then we are typically in a pressure pattern that supports La Nina conditions. And when these numbers are conversely strongly negative for a long period of time, let's say more than 90 days especially, then you're in a pressure pattern that has more westerly winds down in the tropics, and you sort of promote that warming of the equatorial Pacific region, and we're not seeing that right now. So the sea surface temperature anomaly map really hasn't changed too much. We are warming things up here in the eastern Pacific overall, off the coast of South America in our Nino 1 and 2 region. But then the central Pacific over here is still staying a little bit colder than the long-term average. And the Atlantic Basin, main development region, still running above the long-term average. Overall, about a half a degree Celsius if you averaged all these temperatures up. I went and checked a site where it shows that. It's not like I calculated it. I cheated. And I went over to Levi Cowan's site at Tropical Tidbits. He has a nice little plot. A time series, that's what it's called. And it's like 0.6 or something Celsius on average across this couple thousand miles of ocean. And then you see the Northwest Atlantic still very cold. This is interesting, this little blob here of cold inside this area of warmth in the Gulf of Mexico. Yeah, you always have weird things going on. I can't explain what that is or what it's from. But we'll see these anomalies around here kind of come down a little bit because we're having a frontal passage finally of some cooler, drier air, colder air advecting or moving over the water. So some of these positive anomalies through here will get chiseled away, and then they'll come back strong, I'm sure, after that. Again, looking at the subsurface, I wanted to show you something. This is centered on January 23rd, so it's getting about a week old. But you see all this warmth in here, a few areas of cold, right? And we're talking about the possibility of El Nino coming on, and we've discussed that. I showed that in the last update, and we'll have some more information and data coming out to look at over the next week to 10 days. So we look at this and we say, okay, well, what does this mean? Are we going to have an El Nino? Again, you look at all this warmth growing over here in the western Pacific. Well, let me show you. I went back and found an old discussion that I did around this time in 2015. I know it's fuzzy. I just couldn't get the resolution better off of the screen grab from my video, but you get the idea. This is in January of 2015, and I think this is about the 6th of January, so it's a little earlier in the month. But look, the point is, we already had a large area of warmth towards the top of the Pacific, the surface, all right, stretching from South America all the way over to the western Pacific, and just a small area of cool that was dwindling away, and then this enormous spike of warm that was developing. So basically, it was already preconditioned and ready to go from 2014 through 2015, and it launched, and really, you saw we had a record El Nino just about in many areas in 2015. And so quite a difference between excuse me, what we're seeing here. Trying not to cough, believe me, you don't want that. what we have here and what we had just 2 years ago. So this is not the same setup in 2015 that we're looking at now. Now things can change, but we still have a huge area of the Pacific up here that is neutral to just slightly below, and we're getting on towards February, March, April, and I just don't see it coming. And if it does, it's going to be very weak, and more likely will be more in the Central Pacific over here than basin wide. So just my 2 cents on that. Went back and found some stuff in the old hurricane track archives to point out for you. All right, water temperatures, the Gulf of Mexico. Interesting that I pointed out the other day, 26 Celsius line, still in the Gulf of Mexico through the Yucatan Channel. This will dwindle away a little bit. Like I said, we got a pretty good frontal passage coming through, and that will cool things down a little bit. But overall, water temperatures running above normal in the Gulf, and it won't take much longer now as we get into February and March that they will start to rebound very slowly. You'll see that happening down in the Bay of Campeche first. Some of this will start to creep back up, and then some of these islands of 25 Celsius will grow islands inside of them of 26 Celsius. It's really interesting. I'll show you as it happens. It doesn't just all lift back to the north, slowly but surely. It fills in over time from within, so to speak. You'll see. It's pretty cool to watch. At least I think so. The Atlantic. What? This is just remarkable. Let's go back to the anomalies chart. Again, look at that. That is astounding. I mean, like 4 and 5 degrees Celsius positive anomalies in the northwest Atlantic. That is truly amazing. If we ever get enough cold air and energy to combine up here and get a nor'easter, the energy from the ocean is abundant. Just talking about the winter season, and for hurricane season, if these anomalies were to hold on, you think about it, these are anomalies based on January 30th. Well, what if this was August 30th and you had bright reds up there? Water temperatures in this region will be close to 80 once we get into late August. Can you just imagine? I mean, good grief. Definitely some interesting things happening with that. And you notice, some of these temperatures in here, yes, they're in the single digits Celsius-wise, and you say, well, Mark, that's really cold. Well, of course it is, but it's supposed to be colder, and it's not, especially down here where you have water temperatures in the 70s all the way up, pretty close. Well, let's look. All right, here's 40 degrees north latitude. There it is right there. And in this line, there's 21 Celsius. There's a little 22 sitting in there. So we're talking about 70, 71, 72 degrees Fahrenheit at 40 degrees latitude in February, almost February, the end of January. Wow. So that's interesting, definitely. All right, lower 48 weather. The biggest story, people headed to Houston for the Super Bowl. No travel worries in terms of lower 48 weather to disrupt that. Geopolitical stuff, not my arena, so I'm not even going to comment. So, and then of course you have your possibility of computer issues like Delta had. What a nightmare that was. But weather-wise, which is what I will stick to, you're going to have a great week down there if you're headed to Houston for the Super Bowl. And let me say this, if you've never been to Houston, yes, there are a lot of people that live there. Yes, the traffic is absolutely astounding, but it is also one heck of a city. Nowhere else like it along the Gulf Coast. Everything's unique, obviously. Tampa, Miami, New Orleans, etc. Houston is amazing. So if you're heading there, you're going to have a great time, and you won't have to worry about any major weather systems coming along and disrupting your travel or your few days there if you're going to be there for a few days enjoying the festivities. Part of the reason behind that, we did have a dip in the jet stream for the most part, and that's carved out a pretty broad trough here over the eastern U.S. Little pieces of energy trying to dive into that, but again, nothing really substantial. We're not tapping like a southern branch of the jet stream to come in and meet up with any of this Arctic air to create any big storms. And so things will be generally tranquil over the next several days. If we look at the upper air chart real quick, the 500 millibar, this is the eastern U.S., Carolinas, Florida, etc. All right, so just try to get your bearings there. Here's the outline of that sharp trough coming in for now. making it all the way down with lowering heights finally into South Florida. Different advisories going on down along the peninsula for cold air. Coldest air of the season, but it's still not brutal. Probably won't have to worry about the orange groves or any other citrus concerns. Excuse me, too much. I hate it when I cough because I lose my train of thought. This is not a major Arctic outbreak, put it that way. And as I put this into motion, watch what happens over the next, where is it? Right there. 7 days. Things progress pretty quickly. The flow generally comes out of the Pacific here across the U.S. The source region of the air is just kind of cut off. You know, maybe the border states up here, truly in the winter pattern with cold air and some storminess. But below about this line here, below about 45, 50 degrees in latitude, everything's going to be generally zonal flow across the U.S., meaning basically a west to east pattern with the upper air features and no major dips of the jet stream after we get this trough out of here. You see that, how things progress? And even the energy is all strung out still. We don't see any of these bowling balls coming in and diving across the southwest and meeting up with energy out of the Gulf or energy coming out of Canada to create any of those big monster winter storms that we often look for during this time of year. So that's good, especially if you're trying to travel. And I'm still kind of sick, so I can't really deal with it right now. And I'm trying to finish my documentary. As soon as my voice gets all cleared up, I can finish some narration that I need to do, and the old documentary will be ready. I'll talk about that again in length, hopefully later this week, because it is getting pretty close, so that's good. All right? Have yourselves a great rest of your Monday. I do appreciate you tuning in. Always something to talk about, even as we look ahead several months down the road. You know, it's almost February, so that's good. We'll only have about 4 months to go, 120 days plus or so, and then it'll be hurricane season, and it'll be here before you know it. We'll keep an eye on what's happening with the state of the El Nino Southern Oscillation, their ENSO, and other things as we look for lower 48 weather to create trouble. Eventually, the pattern will support some storminess, and like I said, hopefully it'll be once I am much better off health-wise. Get rid of this cold, and then I can head out and maybe get into a big nor'easter up in the northeast somewhere. Anyway, I'm done. Have a great rest of your Monday. Mark Sudduth, HurricaneTrack.com. Thanks again, and I'll talk to you next week.